So, hello, Monica. Thank you for joining me on the Make It British podcast today.
Hi, Kate. Thanks for
So,
having me.
so you're the founder and the director of Monika the Label, which I love your description of it. It's the love affair between Cali Cool and East London grunge, inspired by all the best parts of the 70s. So
Yeah.
that's fantastic. As someone that lives in a 1970s house, I totally vibe with your Cali Cool thing. What do you think were the best parts of the 70s?
I mean, obviously, I was not alive during the 70s, so all my kind of opinion or love for it is just based on a lot of what we can kind of get from it now. So a lot of it has come from the music. I'm really big 70s music fan, like Fleetwood Mac. Like they're just absolutely iconic. And I think when I was younger, I first got into listen to Fleetwood Mac and then discovered the era. And fell in love with it basically, just like the bohemian kind of aspect, that free spirited style that was really present during that time. And as you mentioned as well, it's like a Cali cool. So when I say like Cali cool, I imagine like the old school kind of 70s California that I feel still think there's a little bit lingering there, still in like modern day California style. But obviously as like decades go on, style changes. But I really love that some areas have really stuck to that kind of fashion still.
Yeah, I totally love that as well. So I'm now seeing you're obviously a big Stevie Nicks fan, are you? And that's where it was all inspired.
I am. It's all inspired.
Fantastic.
What
Me
like one of
too.
my dresses are named after her. So very iconic, very inspirational, and a lot of my own personal style kind of derives from her dressing and her stage outfits. So yeah, very big inspiration of mine.
So you're all about slow fashion then. So aside from making using the cloth that you use,
Yeah.
what else does slow fashion mean to you and to Monica the label?
I think slow fashion for me and Monica Label means that we're not entirely trend led. I think that's what's been causing the trend cycle to, or the fashion cycle, should I say, to speed up. It's because of the ongoing growth of micro trends that are happening right now. And I think I have to say, I think that's grown even more over lockdown due to the growth of like social media platforms such as Instagram, TikTok, where styling videos, hauls, and things like that are so easily accessible, especially to the younger generation who may not necessarily have disposable income to invest in key products. Um, they can see these kind of fast fashion items readily available. And for me, I think it's really important that as a brand, we're not directly dictated by those trends. We're just kind of
Yeah.
influenced by them to keep it modern and fresh. But in terms of our design with slow fashion, for me, my brand and my design, it's kind of an extension of my dream wardrobe. So I guess I'm kind of, oh, not kind of, I guess I am lucky that I have so many customers that also share that love for that dream wardrobe of mine. Because at first I'm a bit big-headed. I'm like, oh, I won't include anything in my collection that I wouldn't wear. And in buying, you kind of had to do the opposite. You had to put like you had to disconnect yourself from your own
Customer first.
style,
Yeah.
and the customer came first. But with the brand, is like this is my first opportunity to kind of put my ideas, put my design, my dream style into reality. And I've been really fortunate that people have responded so well to it. We dress for people that want to find something a little bit different. We're definitely vintage inspired as well, which is great because I feel like vintage is also timeless. Like you'll always find something in vintage shops, vintage markets that stand the test of time. Like that's why they're still around being sold at vintage markets because they're so timeless and
Yeah.
well made. Like I feel like a lot of the clothes are made right now, you won't see them in vintage shops in 20 years because
Yeah.
they won't
Well,
have
yeah.
lasted.
The quality, exactly. So how do you ensure that you get the quality that you need to make your garments last as long as the kind of the timelessness of the prints do?
So I think in terms of the actual garment itself, it's really important like who you work with and your manufacturer. So again, with that, we wanted to make sure, like I said earlier, that our supply chain is really local and based in London. So I started off with a completely blank canvas, not knowing any kind of factories around here, and that took a while as well. That was a lot of trial and error, contacting a lot of factories, and I quickly realised that manufacturing in the UK is costs more. And it
Yeah.
made me realize why a lot of companies or a lot of brands manufacture internationally because they can find a cheaper rate. Like pretty much all the fast fashion brands manufacture abroad because they can find a cheaper rate.
What have you found to be the benefits that offset the additional costs?
So I think the benefits definitely offset the additional cost because you get that quality, you get to be directly involved within the manufacturing. Like, obviously, like I said, I attended fit sessions. I was the fit model as well, so I was really deep within like the kind of production and development process. And you can meet your manufacturer face to face. So being able to put yourself into the whole manufacturing process and really quality check, obviously, the factory, who you're working with, everyone that was being paid fairly, what kind of environment were they working in. So that was also really important. But in terms of like the actual quality of the product, we made sure that we had the multiple fit sessions. We never sell anything that we're not entirely happy with. But we've been really fortunate that my seamstress is my factory. It's a small studio factory in North London. They are a really talented team, and it didn't actually take too many attempts. We made sure we had multiple fit sessions, but nowhere near as many that we would have when working and buying. A lot of my feedback from customers is how well the garments fit, and we don't get many returns. A lot of the returns are more to do with like, it just didn't suit me, the color maybe wasn't quite right. So we don't get that many returns. We get the odd exchange asking for different sizes, but it's great that they're still saying, I love the product, I love the quality, I just need a different size. Or they're honest and they're like, it just didn't work for me, but you still make it a beautiful product. Like, that's really what means a lot to me. Is even when they're returning, they're like, it's such a beautiful product, it just didn't work for me. It's nothing about you or your designs, it just didn't work on me. And I think it's always going to happen because everyone has different sense of style, body shape, everything. Like, a dress will not suit everyone. But we're trying to make sure that we do cater to a varied audience, basically.
Yeah. So you've had a few issues recently then with big brands, the sort of brands that both you and I have worked for, not the ones that either of us have worked for, but similar. I don't know how much of that you can say, but they've been copying your designs. Just tell me a bit more about that and how you felt when you first saw, because I've seen the pictures on Instagram and I'll share them when this goes out. It's pretty much identical, some of these products that have been produced.
I think because I've shared it on Instagram, I think I'm quite comfortable sharing what brands they were, because that actually happened multiple times. So I remember it's actually, I think the first copy happened back in February with AliExpress. So again, I can't go into exact detail exactly how it happened, but I noticed I had kind of a dodgy customer, shall we say, and it led me to do some researching, and I found out that a copy on AliExpress, because on AliExpress you can do an image search and you'll find the garment straight away. And my gut instinct was correct, because the one dress that I was worried about was all over AliExpress. None of the other dresses got copied or anything like that. And they were all over AliExpress, which was heartbreaking at the time.
So someone had taken a photograph from your website, which was your IP, because you'd taken that photograph of a model in your dress, and they used your exact image on AliExpress. What, to offer to make it or to sell it?
To sell it. So I think, again, as you know, in buying, like, a lot of it does come from sampling from other brands, and I have a feeling someone was sampling from my brand because they were ordering multiple sizes in one style consistently. And obviously at the start, I was a little bit naive, and I was like, there's nothing I can do. Like, I had my gut feeling something wasn't right, but I was like, well, they're bringing me in money. They could just be ordering multiple sizes, but they kept on ordering more and more, and it got to a point where.
So do you think they were actually buying it to take it apart, to even use, not only copy your design, but your grading as well, i.e. your exact fit that you had spent hours, as you've just said, doing all these fit sessions? You're taking your dresses apart to make patterns.
That's my only kind of conclusion, because it made no sense to me at the time why they were ordering so many sizes, and it kind of then threw me back to my buying days of what you would do with kind of sampling. And I know the company I didn't work for didn't work in this way because we didn't intentionally rip off other designers, but I know within the industry that's how some companies do it. And it got to a point where I think it got a bit too far for me, and I did some digging and then found the AliExpress copy. Again, we're never going to be certain of what the actual situation was, but that was really heartbreaking to see, because I saw so obviously they stole my designs because they remade it and put it online, but obviously you could see there was clearly a copy because of the quality, and they were selling it for like $5. So that was really heartbreaking, seeing my designs being sold for $5. which is basically the complete opposite of what my brand stands for. Like we stand for
Yeah. On
ethical,
a
honest fashion. Sorry, I didn't mean to
but
cut
on
you
a
off there.
different fabric base, I presume.
I assume
Or
so. I mean,
they
you could
copied the
see from the
fabric base.
picture how it was lacking in quality. And on top
Yeah.
of that, so you could see obviously the garment, like it was like a ghost image where it's just the image of the dress. You could see that it was just a really badly made copy. And then they also stole images from my website, my Instagram. So it was pictures of me, my best friends, other people that modeled for us, and put all over the website. But they were like grayed out a little bit. So I assume they had to do that maybe because they think they can overstep copyright issues if they recolor it or something. So it was just such a shock seeing like my face and my friends' faces all over AliExpress in my dress. So that was really difficult to see because that was my first time dealing with something. And this conversation has been ongoing this whole year. I've seen so many designers report the same thing happen to them. And it just keeps on getting worse and worse because then fast forward to about 2 weeks ago, I how did I even stumble across it? No, so the first one was obviously another brand that I was copying, and that was all happened. I happened to stumble upon it accidentally. I just had my second COVID vaccine. Was feeling a little bit sorry for myself in bed on a Saturday. It was Saturday, Sunday, and I was just scrolling online shopping, and I decided to go on ASOS. I hadn't been on there in a while. Don't really shop there anymore, but I just was like looking on there. I was like, I'm gonna have a little bit of a scroll. And literally two scrolls, and I saw what looked like one of my products. It's like this pink maxi skirt in the pink and orange tiger print. And I saw it wrapped around her head, and I was like, that looks like my skirt wrapped around her head. It was basically a massive headscarf, but it was so big that it looked like because I make smaller bandana versions of it as well, in this pink and orange tiger print. And I was like, that looks like a combination of both my skirt and my scarf. And I was like, have they used it for styling purposes, maybe? Clicked onto it and they were selling it. They were selling it as their own ASOS design headscarf. And I was like, this is too close to my own print to just be a coincidence. And yes, that's how I found that one. So I started posting it online, and everyone was like, it's identical. And I think there really is a strength in sharing it on platforms such as Instagram because you raise that awareness, you
Yeah.
raise that profile, which I think is needed because this is happening more and more as we go along. And what was really disappointing was a company like ASOS that I've respected throughout my career, and I've applied for jobs there. I've had interviews there in the past in my buying career, and I saw something so similar. I was like, I don't know if it's a coincidence, but what also is difficult is you start questioning yourself. You're like, maybe I'm overthinking this. Maybe my design is very generic and anyone could do it. And because I was in that headspace of already seeing someone copy, I was like, you know what? I'm going to have a look on Shein. I wonder if there's any of my dresses on there. And literally, I just type in green cherry dress because obviously, as I mentioned, that was the one that on AliExpress. Just typed it into AliExpress, and
Yeah.
it came up again there. The exact dress looked very
On
similar
Shein.
to the AliExpress dress. That was all over Shein, and again being sold for £5. Um,
Shein are the absolute worst though because it's direct from the factory in China, isn't
yeah,
it? They don't even have.
it's
Yeah,
not
it's
even
and
sellers;
so
it's
many.
direct from the
Yeah.
factory, and it's so difficult because
Yeah.
it's really growing in profile. Like I was kind of saying earlier, they've grown a massive following online, especially through Gen Z customers, because they're providing garments that maybe they can't afford or they deem too expensive and recreating it and selling it for like £5, £10. It's made fashion so easily accessible, but it's done it in the entirely wrong way. Like it blows my mind. I think I read doing my research and stuff after it happened. I think they post like 500 to 2,000 new items a day. I'm like, how does that work? And how can that
With no design
with
team
no
because
design
they're
team
just
clearly? It's
copying
just
everything
copies.
else.
It's endless copies because I've lost count now how many brands and designers I've seen complain about it. So I'm one of very many. Like this, my story is not the only one. And what I found really interesting though is the community spirit. That when you share that news, the amount of support that I received back from it was insane. The amount of shares, support, that was really useful and really heartwarming to see. So many people were just as angry as I was, and then they're not their designs, they're not connected to it. But the fact that so many people share this opinion that it's just not right, I think it still needs to be really pushed within the industry because it's just not okay, and I just don't see how this can
No.
continue. Um, and I think it's also a little bit laughable. I think they announced that they're doing like a design competition, wasn't it? Shein, I think like you win $100,000 to have a collection or something like that. I was like, you don't need to do that. They're already stealing your designs anyway.
Yeah, yeah. So what else have you tried aside from being very vocal about it on social media, which I think is brilliant? Is there anything else that you've been able to do to try and stop it happening, or to hit back at these companies that have done
I
this?
think, yeah, so vocalizing on Instagram is the first thing I did, because then also I think I missed out that last weekend I then saw another copy on ASOS that was identical. I think that's the one that you saw. So the fact that twice in about a space of 2 weeks I announced it online, the amount of people that were talking about it was incredible. But sadly, it's just so difficult to actually get further with it. I think with AliExpress, I end up directly messaging the sellers to take it down. And some of the conversations I had on there were ridiculous. I was just saying like, take them down. They're not your designs. You're not Monika the Label. And they're like, yeah, we know we're not Monika the Label. And then I was like, these are my designs. Please take them down. Just like, oh, you designed them. They're amazing. Congratulations. And it was just this kind of sarcasm. I don't know what it was, sarcasm or whatnot, but it was just really difficult conversation to have. And then luckily, one of my best friends, his boyfriend is an IP lawyer. So he was able to put
Ah,
together a whole,
handy.
yeah, handy. So he was able to put a whole case together for me. Took some time, obviously, like we literally scrolled through my design history. And I think that's also what I want to mention. It's really important when you're designing. Keep like a
Yeah,
time note or a date of everything that you made and when you design them. Luckily, I had everything kind of time stamped from emails and designs and things like that were able to then provide as proof that these designs originated from my brain myself. So we created a whole case, but then trying to submit that on AliExpress, it was they make it purposely difficult to do. So I tried submitting it and they rejected it because my ID was wrong, because you have to upload like your identification, your ID, and they weren't being clear if they wanted my ID or my business identification or verification. And it got to a point where I just didn't have the time to look into it further. Um, it got really difficult, and I'm still yet to finalize it. It's still on my to-do list to try and look back into it and do it, but it's so hard also that you just keep on seeing more copies. But what I also try to remember is that the people who buy from these sites, or because that was my first fear, is like, oh, all these people are now going to flock to Shein or ASOS and buy the copy. And while that's really disheartening, they're obviously not your original customer anyway. So I'm not. So I had like people messaging me like, "Don't share it because you'll lose customers." I'm like, I won't lose customers
no.
because they're not my customers in the first place. I think for any other designers out there who do worry about that, I don't think that's a thing you need to worry about. For me, it's more just that my work has been stolen. My hard work and my ideas are being ripped off. That's what's more painful and I think difficult to deal with than the fact they're doing copies, and that means other people, their customers will be stolen. They're not stealing your customers because they weren't your customers in the
Yeah.
first place.
Yeah, I love your attitude to that, Monika, but I know it must be really upsetting for you and so
It
many
is
other
hard.
designers as well. Yeah.
I'm fortunate that I have some support. So, like my parents, my stepdad is my accountant because he's a trained accountant, and my mum will help out with admin here and then. So, I have the support of them. But in terms of the whole business, it is just me. So, it's a lot to deal with trying
Yeah.
to develop a brand, design collections. I pack and wrap everything myself, to then also trying to fight a legal battle with AliExpress when it
Yeah.
seems like it's just going to be an endless battle. So for that, it's definitely on my to-do list, but it's just something that you can't spend all your time because then your whole business will stop running. And like I said, it's not directly losing me business. In matter of fact, it actually helped me gain business. After sharing my posts, I had about 3 people message me directly saying, "This purchase was made because I discovered your brand through these posts because other people shared it, and I wanted to buy your product." So I actually got gain
Oh,
sales from it. So in terms,
brilliant.
exactly. So there was a massive silver lining in terms of my exposure really increased. I gained a load of new followers after that, and a load of amazing customers after that as well. And also, I gained orders, so I can't really complain endlessly because a lot of positive things did come out of it. But it's just a shame that something like that had to happen. Um,
Do you
and
do you think
sorry,
going forward, because obviously you've got the sort of
mm,
customers who wouldn't have just said they've voiced the fact they've bought from you because your brand has a purpose,
yeah.
whereas these other companies don't. Do you think you mentioned Gen Z there? Do you think mindset is changing a little, and we are going to see more of a shift towards a bigger percentage of people valuing brands that have purpose rather than a £5 dress that they can buy from some cheap Chinese copying company?
My opinion seems to change all the time. I think I'm very torn between the fact that it will, and there's also a large majority that won't. I have to say, over the last year since the pandemic happened, I really do believe there was a shift in a perspective towards more ethical and ethical fashion and a better fashion future, focusing a lot more on independent designers, independent boutiques, broadening your kind of shopping range and not just sticking to the usual shops. Like I really do feel like there was like a growth in that hunger for new brands that stood for a purpose. So there's definitely that growth for a better fashion future and for the high street to be filled with more independent boutiques and brands. Like I'm doing a pop-up next week with a company called Lone Design Club who specialize
Oh
in
yeah.
providing a platform for independent designers. And yeah, the response that I get to that is incredible. So I think there's definitely a shift in I won't say large majority, but in a large group of people and shoppers that are shifting towards wanting to be a bit more
I think
conscious of
so.
what they're buying. You have the customers who are definitely a lot more aware that we kind of need to change in terms of our attitudes towards fashion, need something a bit more conscious. And again, I'm quite careful to throw around the word sustainable because then this will link in something that I might say later is
Yeah.
that you have these brands who are driven by obviously being cost effective, but then slapping on a term called sustainable to then sell it to the customers who are conscious. So it's all interweaved into one. And funnily enough, the dress that got copied from me from ASOS, they threw in the word
Yes,
sustainable
they did, didn't
into the
they?
product title. And I was like, you copied one, a
Yeah.
sustainability focused brand, and then put it in your title. It's a sustainable recycled satin dress. And they could have not copied it anymore. And I did
Yeah,
some
that
more
was a real
research.
kick in the
It's a
pants.
real kick. And I was doing some
Greenwash as well as copying you.
absolute greenwash because then I looked, because it says it's a part of their not sustainable edit. What's the another word for it? A conscious edit or something. So I did some research. I'm like, so how is this sustainable? How is this edit sustainable? And all they said is because of their fabrics. Like we use recycled fabrics. I'm like, that does not mean you're sustainable.
Yeah.
And even now, like I'm very aware, like not to call everything I do sustainable because I don't think fashion can be 100% sustainable in what we do. Like we're bringing new products out nonetheless, so you won't
Yeah.
be. But you can't just slap on that term for greenwashing and to try and bring in customers who are more conscious about what they're doing because that dress ended up selling out. And that was also really heartbreaking knowing that that dress sold out and knowing there's so many people walking around in a dress that was a copy of mine. And I feel really bad for those people who may have been convinced that they've done something better for the environment and bought a sustainable dress from ASOS. But how can a dress from ASOS that runs on fast fashion with the sheer amount of product, a company like that can never be sustainable because of the amount of product that they constantly have going. It's just not possible. Like there's so many
Yeah.
factors towards sustainability, and that goes beyond recycled fabric.
I think made a really good point there about not saying, "Oh, we're a sustainable brand." There's too many people that say, "Oh, we want to be a sustainable brand," and I kind of say, "Well, what points do you want to be sustainable? Because there's so many different facets to it, and as a
Exactly.
brand, you need to decide what you stand for." So you said for you, it's about making in London, it's about using these recycled fabrics, it's about doing slow fashion.
There's so many
You're not do you
aspects to
yeah.
it.
You can't
And
do
I think
everything. You have to do
exactly, you
yeah.
have to live up to what you say. So we say that we're like a sustainable fashion brand because of what we do. We don't just say we are. I make sure that when I say we are sustainable, I say how we are sustainable, but I also make sure to never say I'm 100% sustainable. I think if you make that point, you need to back it up with why. So when ASOS copied my dress, I then pointed out, I was like, well, how is it sustainable when Monica the Label does this, this, and this that you just listed? And we're also planning to try and further that even more. We want to work towards circular fashion. We want to work towards making sure that the life cycle of a garment is never ending. So we're trying to introduce a take back scheme. There's so much more that we can
Oh,
still do as a
great.
brand.
Yeah. Okay, so final question from you and final thoughts from you. What would be the one piece of advice you
Hmm.
would give another brand that you've learnt in the time that you've been running your business? What's your one biggest tip for everyone?
Oh God, one biggest piece of advice. I think it's something I did mention earlier. I keep saying this, but I feel like I repeat myself sometimes, but sometimes it's needed. I think staying true to yourself and making sure that you're not led by external kind of resources. Like I said, that my design process, my brand is kind of the extension of myself and my personal style. And it really allows me to be as true to the brand as possible. And I think nowadays, because the industry is growing so much, there are new brands popping up all over the place. You really need to make yourself stand out. And nowadays it's 50% product, I would say, and 50% about the brand that you are. So I think you need to work just as much as you can on your brand, on your branding, what you stand for, as well as your products, because your products won't last you basically. So with me, it's really important that I stick to our ethos, I stick to our values that are my own values as well. And it really prevails because I'm not faking anything. I'm being true to myself. I'm doing what I believe in. And I think that's what's really allowed the brand to become what it has become by a year and a half later. It's because I've always stuck to my guns. I've stuck to what I believe in. I'm not led by trends. I don't. So I think trends are so easy. They influence you to do things that you might not necessarily want to do. And that would be my advice. I think make sure you really find what your brand stands for, what your values are, and make sure you don't always just rely on your products. You need to rely on what your brand stands for as well.
Ah, brilliant advice. Really brilliant advice. Thank you, Monica. You've been an amazing guest. Just
Thank
tell
you for having
everyone
me.
where it is, tell everyone where they can find the original Monica the Label products.
So you can find the original Monica Label products at monikathelabel.com. That is Monika, um, thelabel.com. Sorry, no in the middle. But and then we're also Monica the Label on Instagram and social media platforms as well.
Brilliant. Oh, Monica, thank you so much for joining me. You've been amazing.
Thanks very much, Kate.